what's up, demons and demonettes? Tis I, Atraxi, Demon Queen. And today we're talking about Sonja. But before we get into it, as always, toss a like and subscribe down below. Now, I've had a difficult time engaging this hero. That's why it's taken so long to get this video out. Usually by day one, I can kind of tell if they're really good or really bad. And where they fit in the pull priority. But we'll get to that at the end. Let's talk about her abilities first. So Tempest Thrust, this is her ultimate ability. Sonja delivers 8 piercing strikes on enemies in a designated frontal area. So it's a square, it's 3x3, each dealing a 35% plus 4% ult damage. Each strike also deals extra damage equal to 4% of the enemy's current HP up to 160% of Sonja's own attack. And she then charges to the far end of the struck area, dealing a 180% plus 20% damage to enemies within. Right, and the blue is from the charm set, if you get the ult charm set. And then each level here just increases damage. Crimson Covenant. This is kind of a key feature. When a battle starts, Sonja forms a Crimson Covenant with 2 allies placed to her left and right, prioritizing those in the front over those in the back. So positioning for the buff is important. Increase their attack by 10% plus 1% per skill power point, and their Fizz defense by 15 and 1%. While Crimson Covenant is active, the 2 allies gain additional attack and defense every 6 seconds, stacking up to 6 times. And then just as she levels up in a resonance level, it just increases the bonus that you get. Alright, Stunning Strike, this is just kind of her skill. She spins, slashing 1 tile. She does 120% plus skill damage, and then stuns them for 1 second plus a tenth of a second for each point of skill. And then this just increases with the levels. So you can eventually, if you get the, say, acute charm set, she can have a 2-second stun. Just with the 12-second cooldown, it's not long enough for a boss like Orson. Hero Focus, it just increases her haste and then increases it the first time she uses her ult. And then just the bonus you get increases for each level that you level up the Hero Focus. This is very similar to a lot of the other ones we see. Now let's talk about her EX weapon. This is the big one. Sonja gains a 100 extra initial energy. She permanently enhances Crimson Covenant after casting her first Tempest Thrust. Instead of only gaining stats when a buffed ally is defeated, she continuously benefits from the accumulated stat bonus. Right, so that's huge. So normally she needs to wait for the allies to get killed, and then she gets the bonus. Now she gets it with her first ult. And then as you do the +5, she gets 200 initial energy, and then +10 is where I recommend. Reduces damage taken by 40% for a Covenant member. If any other member is alive, 50% of the reduced damage is shared. Right, so basically it reduces the damage that incomes, and then reduces the damage again, and then splits it out. So this kind of makes a shared health pool, kind of like between the 3 heroes. It just it doesn't work like in an MMO. You may have like a boss fight where you have 3 bosses, and the 3 bosses share a health pool. So you damage one boss, and it gets spread out amongst all bosses. In this case, it's more like you deal 100 points of damage, 40% of that gets reduced, and then split out amongst the other Covenant members. Alright. And then Sonja, for her S+, just gets a self-heal when she does her ult. So those cover her abilities. Let's talk about how she's being used in certain game modes. Now, if we go into stages, she might be used here. I don't know if she'll be in any records at the moment, at least not where I'm at. But I have been seeing her used in high-end push to buff Tassie and Rowan on stages where you're using them. Not too big on the priority pull add there. I mean, they have to be really, really exceptional to be a must pull, just based off of stages like Almost, where you see everybody that pulled him got far ahead at the beginning of this season, as opposed to people who did not get him quickly fell behind. let's talk about Titan Reaver, or a bossing in general. This is where Sonja's are really showing up and coming up big, is because she's really fitting into the meta nicely for non-Dream Realm bosses, right? So we have her here. She's the best on Necro Dragon. She was really good on the Skyclops when she was teamed up with Harak last week. So yeah, but again, this mode doesn't give a temporal essence. She's been excelling really well. Like if we go into Battle Drill and we go to Secluded Island and we look at the best records, they're all using Sonja to buff Corrin. As you can see here. So while her damage isn't too great on the boss, she's buffing the damage dealers. But again, that doesn't award temporal essence. So yeah, so I expect her to come around on a Ravaged Realm to be big there for the Light Bearers, especially since they don't have that type of buffer on their team. So she'll be big there. She works really well with Sinbad, it seems. So that's probably the comp we saw on Necro Dragon is probably going to be comparable to the comp of what we're going to be using for Lightbearer for Ravaged Realm. So she's going to be key there. Alright. So right, again, this squad, you're going to see something similar to this. We'll probably run it with Rowan and maybe like a Tamisia or Hugin, depending on how Hugin is when he comes out, right? So you'll probably have this one squad that is this physical squad that does the buffing, and then you'll have another squad that's like a magic squad. It just depends how many heroes we have to use in Ravaged Realm, but she's definitely going to have a big factor there. And let's go to PvP, and we'll talk about PvP. Alright, as you can see, I have a defense, and I'm utilizing Sonja. This is just kind of like test her out, but she does really work well with Dunn, Damien, or Smokey, and then the heavy hitters like a Taylene, Harak, or a Dianel. And it becomes just a very nuke-heavy team. As you can see, people are just out there kind of like testing stuff against it just to see how it does. Yeah, you could see, and then here I keep running it with Damien. Let's see if I have any records down at the bottom. See, here's where I ran it with Smokey. Smokey is a little tricky to work with it. So, she's iffy on defense and arena, but she's really good on offense. She excels on maps 1, 2, 3. She struggles on 4, and she's not feasible on 5. She just kind of falls apart on arena map 5. And if we go into our formations, I can show you why she falls apart on arena map 5 and why she's difficult on arena map 4. So we'll just go into formations here. Alright, let's go to map 4. So as you can see, right, the setup here is tricky. So if we want to use special tiles, it's very difficult to use. If you're trying to get her to buff the correct heroes, it can be difficult to use, right? Because say if we want to run a formation like this, well, now she's buffing the frontmost heroes, right? Because she prioritizes the targets in front as opposed to the targets in back. And you can't really pick who she does. It just, that's the priority. And so that's just what we're stuck with. So it makes it difficult to run there. And then like here, you can't, there's no way to set it up where you can get the full buff, right? So even if you go like here, you can buff this one, but it's got to be to the back left or back right. It's not direct back. So I can't select rock for whatever reason. But you can see she's not buffing both heroes. So you can't get the full benefit of Covenant on Arena 5. And Arena 5 special is essentially the same thing. It just has the buff tiles. It's very popular. So she's very difficult to run. So you need those maps that are ideal, which are 1, 2, 3. No one's going to run 1. Normally in Arena, you might see once in a blue moon some people running 2. This is popular in the 20. And then on 3, I think she works best. She's great at nuking nodes. You can use the Dianel comp. So we'll just go like this. Typically, when I'm doing like Crystal Clash, she's really good there. And we can run something like this.
Who will boss needs a little pick-me-up.
Anyone up for a drink?
Alright, so we'll run this. Eventually, in this squad, Dino will get his 3 buffs for his Nectar stack. It just takes a little while because it has the ramp up. But we're not primarily using Dio with his Nectar stacks. Here, we're just using him as like a heavy hitter because he works really well with Dun because he does a lot of damage even without his ult and his ultimate buffs. But he will eventually get them. It just takes a while. Then one of the issues with Arena or Standard Arena is that typically most fights are over within 12 to 18 seconds. So it goes pretty quick. So Burst is your best friend here, and Sonja will add into your Burst comp or any Burst comp. So she's really good in Arena, but I typically don't like her on defense. It feels like this squad's very easy to counter on attacking when I've thrown it up. A lot of like higher end whales will be able to kind of counter it, which is really good there. Now let's talk about the big one and what's usually the most deciding factor when ranking a hero, and that is a Dream Realm, because a Dream Realm again is the only place that awards temporal essence, right? So ranking in Dream Realm is important. So let's go into our records. So we have a Lone Gaze. Now there is a squad here that is comparable to the Heroic squad, which is, I think, a little bit more RNG friendly. The only issue is with the Sonja squad, you need to have her full acute charms to about a tie. So she is meta on this boss. I just need her charm sets. We kind of have 2 meta comps. If we go to Orson, she wasn't used here. If we go to Beetle, she wasn't used here. If we go to Stomper, we haven't had all of the bosses yet. Necro Dragon wasn't bad. I think she was meta here. So she's really good here on Necro. So she's meta on that fight. Not meta on, haven't had Croaker yet, and Skyclub. So some of them are 2DVD. We haven't gone through the full cycle yet. She's really, really good. I think at 1 copy, she's a low investment and a must-have, just because of her ability to buff all of the heroes, and you're gonna see her in all of your bossing comps. Except for maybe Dream Realm, because you're dealing with multiple things and different boss mechanics, and she may not function, and its setup is important. But unlike Guild Supremacy, she's a must-have because the new meta team for Guild Supremacy runs Sonja. So if we talk about Guild Supremacy, again, it's not one of those modes that determines if a hero is a must-have or not must-have, but she's gonna be used in the meta comp there. So 1 copy investment, not too high. Ideally, you can pull her up to Mythic Plus, a +10. That way, she gets her big Covenant ability, the 40% damage reduction, and the shared health pool. And as always, if you can pull her higher, pull her higher. Now, is she a must pull at max to Supreme Plus? I would say no. I think you're comfortable pulling her to Mythic +10. So she's not as high as an investment as some of the other heroes that necessarily might be a must pull. And I think that's just because she struggles a little bit in Arena. So you may not want to build all of those Paragon levels on her if you don't really need her for offense. But so the overall ranking is, yes, I think she's a must-have at least 1 copy. The ideal pull would be to M+, +10, and if you can go higher, always go higher. And I say M+, +10, but it's really then just the Eggcorns to push her to S. So you might as well just push her to S just to get the extra stats, because you're probably going to be using her a bit in Dream Out. And also, if you push her to Supreme, then you can push her to +15 as well. Again, for more stats, for more damage in Dream Realm and those bossing modes. So if you want a low investment, again, 1 copy. And happy hunting, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!